The single biggest threat to independence after 60 might not be your heart or your memory. It's simply losing muscle, a condition doctors call sarcopenia, and one of the most effective, evidence-backed defenses against it is something this basic: eating enough of the right protein, consistently, at the right times, spread across the day, rather than concentrated in just one meal. Across the Bible, meat shows up again and again at exactly the moments people most needed real strength. A father killing his best calf for a son he thought was dead. Ravens delivering meat twice a day to a starving prophet with no other food source at all. A fire built on a beach at dawn just to cook fish for exhausted men who'd been working since before sunrise. Quick note: this is general nutrition support, not treatment. If you manage kidney disease or another protein-restricted condition, talk to your doctor about the right amount for you, specifically, before making changes. Let's count down 8 biblical meat dishes for strength and energy. Stay with me for number 2, meat delivered by birds to a man with nothing else to eat. And number 1, the meal a father chose for the most important celebration of his entire life. Let's start at number 8. Number 8. The permitted meat. Have you ever wondered what people were actually allowed to eat after the fat prohibition covered elsewhere in this channel's coverage of biblical dietary law? The answer turns out to be almost the entire animal, just not the internal fat surrounding the organs specifically. Leviticus chapter 3 and chapter 7 draw a very precise line. The fat around the kidneys, liver, and internal organs was reserved for the altar, but the muscle meat itself, the actual protein-rich tissue people ate at nearly every meal involving meat, was fully permitted, and, in the case of peace offerings specifically, meant to be shared and eaten together as part of the celebration itself, rather than reserved only for priests. This particular offering, unlike some others described in Leviticus, was specifically designed around the idea of a shared meal, portions going to the altar, portions to the priests, and portions back to the person who brought the offering in the first place, an early model of communal eating built directly into the religious system itself. This muscle meat is exactly where the protein. Modern research on aging keeps pointing back to lean muscle meat delivers all 9 essential amino acids in one serving, a complete protein profile. Plant sources typically can't match without careful combining across multiple foods throughout the day, and it's particularly rich in leucine, the specific amino acid most directly responsible for triggering muscle protein synthesis, the actual biological process of building and maintaining muscle tissue at the cellular level. Research on aging muscles specifically has identified something researchers call anabolic resistance, where older muscle tissue requires a larger dose of protein, and particularly leucine, to trigger the same growth response. A smaller amount would trigger in a younger person, making meat's naturally concentrated leucine content especially relevant for exactly this age group. Choosing leaner cuts, trimming visible fat before cooking, and prioritizing the protein itself over the fat surrounding it is, in a strange way, exactly what this ancient law was already pointing toward, just for a completely different reason than anyone in Moses' time could have articulated or understood at the time. Have you ever actually checked how much protein is in your typical dinner plate? Most people significantly underestimate it, especially compared to what research now suggests older adults specifically need per meal to maximize the muscle-building signal, a threshold that appears to rise somewhat with age rather than staying constant throughout life. Researchers studying this specifically have found that a meal delivering somewhere in the range of 25 to 30 grams of quality protein appears to more reliably trigger muscle protein synthesis in older adults than smaller amounts, spread even more thinly. A rough target, roughly equivalent to a palm-sized portion of meat, fish, or poultry at each main meal of the day. From the permitted cut of meat, let's move to a genuinely lean, high-protein bird with only one real problem. Historically, how much of it people actually ate? Number 7. Quail. Have you ever written off an entire food because of one bad experience with it, when the actual problem was really just how much you ate in one sitting? Quail deserves exactly that reconsideration. In Exodus chapter 16, quail cover the Israelite camp in the evening, providing meat during a period when food was otherwise scarce in the wilderness, arriving in such numbers that gathering enough for a meal required almost no effort at all, a striking contrast to the manna that required daily collection every single morning without fail. We've covered elsewhere how badly this went later in Numbers, when people overate to the point of illness, but it's worth being clear here. Quail itself is a genuinely lean, high-protein meat. Nothing dangerous about the bird on its own, and the two stories shouldn't be confused with each other despite involving the same animal. A 3-ounce serving of quail delivers a substantial amount of complete protein for relatively few calories, with less fat than most cuts of red meat, and a favorable amino acid profile for muscle maintenance, specifically comparable in many respects to chicken breast, but with a slightly richer flavor most people find more satisfying and less likely to feel like a diet food. For someone managing their weight while still trying to hit adequate protein targets, lean poultry like this is exactly the kind of food nutrition researchers point to again and again in studies on healthy aging, offering real satiety without excess calories that could contribute to unwanted weight gain over time. The lesson from Numbers isn't avoid quail, it's avoid extremes. A genuinely lean, healthy protein source turned into a cautionary tale purely through the amount consumed in one sitting rather than anything wrong with the meat itself. Ever notice how the healthiest foods can still cause real problems if common sense about portion size gets thrown out entirely, even when the food itself was never the actual issue to begin with, just the sheer quantity involved? From a lean bird unfairly remembered for one bad episode, let's move to a leaner cut, still studied today, for exactly the reason it happens to be leaner in the first place. Number 6. ESAU'S wild game. Have you ever noticed how different wild-caught or grass-fed meat tastes compared to what's typically sold at a regular grocery store, even when it's technically the same animal and the same cut? There's a real nutritional reason behind that difference, not just a difference in preparation or seasoning choices. In Genesis chapter 27, Isaac specifically asks Esau to hunt wild game rather than simply slaughtering an animal from the family's own flock. Wanting the particular dish only fresh-hunted meat could provide for what he expected to be his final blessing before he died, a request specific enough that it becomes a central detail in everything that follows in the story, since the time it takes Esau to actually hunt and prepare the meal is exactly the window Rebekah and Jacob used to carry out their deception. Wild game consistently tests leaner than farm-raised meat, with a meaningfully different fat composition, generally lower in total and saturated fat, while carrying a higher proportion of the same beneficial fats found in fish, simply because wild animals move more and eat a more varied natural diet than livestock, raised primarily for fast weight gain in a controlled environment. For someone specifically trying to maximize protein while managing overall fat intake, this is a real, measurable distinction backed by actual nutritional analysis rather than just a marketing preference used to justify a higher price tag at a specialty butcher or restaurant. Dear, elk, and other wild game commonly studied today show this leaner pattern consistently across multiple independent analyses, not just a single study or isolated finding. If wild game itself isn't practical to source where you live, grass-fed and pasture-raised options at a regular grocery store tend to land closer to this leaner profile than conventional, grain-finished meat. Worth checking for, specifically on the label, if this distinction actually matters to you and your particular goals. Cooking methods matter here too. Quick searing or grilling over high heat, rather than slow braising in added fat, keeps the meal closer to the naturally lean profile the meat already starts with, rather than adding back in the fat content wild game naturally lacks compared to conventionally raised alternatives. It's worth remembering too that Isaac's request wasn't really about nutrition at all. It reflected a cultural understanding that freshly hunted meat, prepared with real skill and effort, carried a kind of honor. A store-bought or already slaughtered animal simply couldn't match for an occasion. This significant from meat hunted specifically for its quality. Let's move to the meat behind the most urgent meal in the entire Old Testament. Eaten under genuine time pressure. Number 5. The Passover lamb. Have you ever eaten a meal specifically because you knew you'd need the energy for what came right after, packing in extra calories before a long day of physical work? The very first Passover meal was eaten under exactly that pressure, timed with real practical urgency behind it. In Exodus chapter 12, God instructs the Israelites to eat roasted lamb with their sandals already on and staff in hand, ready to leave Egypt at a moment's notice, the meal itself functioning as practical preparation for an imminent, physically demanding journey rather than a leisurely dinner meant to be lingered over for hours. The instructions are remarkably specific. An animal without blemish, roasted whole rather than cut into pieces, eaten with bitter herbs and unleavened bread, every detail apparently chosen with real intention, rather than left to individual preference. Lamb is a genuinely strong source of complete protein, along with zinc and vitamin B12, two nutrients specifically important for energy metabolism, and, in the case of B12, nerve function that tends to decline with age regardless of overall diet quality. B12 deficiency in particular becomes more common in older adults, partly due to reduced stomach acid affecting absorption from food, even when intake itself seems adequate on paper, a condition called atrophic gastritis that becomes increasingly common with each passing decade, making animal protein sources like lamb a genuinely practical, direct way to maintain intake, rather than relying solely on fortified foods or supplements that may not be as reliably absorbed. Zinc, less often discussed than B12, but equally important, plays a direct role in immune function and wound healing, both areas where deficiency becomes noticeably more consequential later in life. Roasted rather than boiled, the way the original instructions specifically require, also happens to preserve more of the meat's natural juices and nutrient content than extended boiling typically does. A small technical detail with a real, if secondary, nutritional benefit attached to it that most readers probably never think twice about. It's worth noting too that the instructions specify eating the whole animal, head, legs, and inner parts included. Nothing wasted or left over until morning, a practical approach to using every part of a valuable protein source, rather than discarding anything usable. This kind of nose-to-tail eating, common out of necessity throughout most of human history, also happens to capture a wider range of nutrients than muscle meat alone provides, organ meats in particular, carrying notably higher concentrations of certain vitamins and minerals, than the cuts most people default to eating today. From a meal eaten standing, ready to move at a moment's notice, let's move to one cooked specifically for men who'd already been working since before sunrise. Number 4. The beach. Breakfast fish. Have you ever had someone cook for you specifically because they could tell how exhausted you actually were without you needing to say a single word about it? That's essentially what happens on a beach in one of the more tender, quietly moving scenes in the entire Gospels. In John chapter 21, after a long, unsuccessful night of fishing that had left the disciples with nothing to show for hours of effort, they spot a stranger on the shore who tells them where to cast their net, resulting in an overwhelming catch of 153 fish, specific enough, a number that it was clearly worth remembering and recording precisely, even generations after the actual event. When they reach the beach, they find Jesus has already started a fire and is cooking fish and bread, a breakfast prepared and waiting before they'd even fully processed who they were actually talking to on the shore, before Peter had famously jumped into the water to swim toward him. Fish delivers complete protein alongside omega-3 fatty acids, a different nutritional profile from red meat or poultry, with research specifically linking omega-3 intake to reduced inflammation, a factor increasingly understood to contribute to muscle loss in older adults through a process researchers call inflammaging, chronic low-grade inflammation that appears to accelerate age-related muscle breakdown over time, even in the absence of any specific injury or illness. Some research has gone further, looking specifically at whether omega-3 supplementation alongside resistance exercise produces better muscle-building outcomes in older adults than exercise alone, with several smaller trials suggesting a modest but genuine additional benefit worth considering for anyone already working on strength training as part of their routine, grilled or pan-seared rather than heavily fried. The way this beach fire almost certainly prepared it keeps more of that beneficial fat content intact than deep frying tends to. Worth keeping in mind next time fish is actually on the menu at home rather than at a restaurant. There's something worth noticing too in the fact that Jesus asks the disciples to bring some of their own fresh catch to add to what he'd already started cooking, combining what he provided with what they'd actually worked for themselves that morning, rather than the meal being entirely one-sided in either direction. It's a small detail, easy to read past quickly, yet it reflects something worth sitting with. Provision and effort working together, rather than one entirely replacing the need for the other. From a breakfast cooked for exhausted men before they'd even asked for it. Let's move to the fastest, most generous meat dish in the entire Bible. Number 3. Abraham's calf for 3 visitors. Have you ever had a guest arrive with absolutely no notice at all and found yourself scrambling to actually feed them properly on short notice? Abraham handles that exact situation about as generously as anyone in the entire Bible, without a hint of hesitation or complaint about the inconvenience. In Genesis chapter 18, 3 unexpected visitors approach Abraham's tent in the heat of the day, and he immediately runs, not walks, to select a choice, tender calf, handing it to a servant to prepare quickly while he personally oversees the rest of the meal himself, standing nearby the whole time rather than delegating everything and staying comfortably seated in the shade, an old man moving with the urgency of someone much younger. The urgency here matters nutritionally too. Freshly prepared meat, cooked and served the same day rather than cured, dried, or stored for an extended period, retains more of its original protein quality and micronutrient content than meat processed for long-term storage, a genuine advantage. This famously rushed meal happened to have built in by necessity rather than any deliberate nutritional intention on Abraham's part. Modern processing and extended storage, whether through curing, freezing for long periods, or heavy preservation, can gradually reduce certain nutrient levels compared to fresh preparation, though the difference is generally modest rather than dramatic for most nutrients involved. For anyone specifically trying to build a habit around adequate protein intake, this story offers a simple, practical model. Fresh, simply prepared meat, served without excessive processing or heavy sauces, remains one of the most efficient ways to hit a real protein target in a single sitting, without needing to track every gram carefully. Abraham also serves curds and milk alongside the meat, an early example of pairing animal protein sources together in one meal rather than relying on just one. A pattern still recommended today for anyone trying to spread nutrient intake across a variety of sources rather than depending entirely on one food. The combination itself, dairy and meat served together at the same meal, reflects a broader ancient Near Eastern hospitality practice of offering genuine abundance and variety rather than a single, minimal dish, even when time to prepare it was extremely limited. From a meal prepared with real urgency and generosity, let's move to meat delivered under circumstances far more desperate. Number 2. The ravens feeding Elijah. Here's the meal we promised you. Have you ever been in a situation with genuinely no other food source available, where whatever showed up next was simply what you had to rely on completely, with no backup plan and no alternative? Elijah spends an entire season of his life in exactly that position, entirely at the mercy of provision, arriving from somewhere else. In 1 Kings chapter 17, during a severe drought Elijah himself had prophesied would come, telling King Ahab directly that neither dew nor rain would fall until he said otherwise, God sends him to hide by a specific brook and instructs ravens, birds not typically known for sharing food with anyone, to bring him bread and meat, delivered reliably every single morning and every single evening, for as long as the water there lasted. There's no mention of him hunting, farming, or trading for this food. It simply arrives twice daily, exactly when needed, with no explanation offered for how or why the ravens comply. In a genuine survival scenario with limited food access, complete protein sources like meat become disproportionately valuable precisely because they deliver every essential amino acid the body can't produce on its own in a single food, rather than requiring a careful combination of multiple plant sources eaten together to achieve that same nutritional completeness. For Elijah, entirely dependent on whatever these birds brought him, meat wasn't a dietary preference or a lifestyle choice. It was the most efficient possible way to actually survive on unpredictable, limited provisions arriving from a source completely outside his control. This same principle explains why complete protein sources are so often prioritized in humanitarian food aid and disaster relief settings today, delivering the most essential nutrition per unit of food when supply itself is genuinely constrained, and every calorie needs to count. There's a broader lesson here, even outside genuine scarcity. When time, appetite, or access to food is limited, as it often becomes for older adults managing reduced mobility, a smaller appetite, or simply less energy to cook elaborate meals, prioritizing protein-dense foods over lower-density options makes every single bite count more toward an actual daily target that might otherwise go unmet. Elijah didn't get to choose an elaborate menu during that drought. He got exactly what he needed, delivered reliably, and that simplicity itself is worth learning from rather than dismissing as merely a product of desperate circumstances beyond his control. There's a real parallel worth drawing for anyone finding meal planning genuinely difficult later in life, whether due to limited mobility, reduced energy, or simply less interest in cooking than in earlier decades. A small number of reliable protein-forward meals repeated consistently often serves someone better than an ambitious, varied menu that ultimately goes unmade because it feels like too much effort most days. From meat that arrive twice daily out of pure necessity, let's move to the meal chosen deliberately for the most important celebration of an entire lifetime. Number 1. The fatted calf. Here's the meal this entire video has been building toward. Of every dish on this list, this is the one chosen entirely on purpose, for exactly one specific, deeply important occasion, rather than out of necessity, urgency, or simple, unplanned hospitality toward an unexpected guest. In Luke chapter 15, a father whose younger son had left home wasted his entire inheritance on reckless living, and finally returned in disgrace and desperation, having rehearsed an entire speech, asking to be treated as a hired servant rather than a son, doesn't hesitate, doesn't lecture, doesn't make him prove himself worthy first, before extending any welcome at all. He sees his son while he's still a long way off, apparently having watched for him for some time, and runs to meet him. An undignified thing for a man of his age and status to do in that culture, before the son can even finish his rehearsed apology. He calls for the best robe, a ring, sandals, and specifically the fattened calf, an animal deliberately raised and kept in reserve for exactly this kind of occasion, to be killed immediately so the entire household can celebrate together that very same day. No delay. No waiting for a more convenient moment. This calf represents planned abundance, an animal specifically set aside in advance for a celebration nobody could have predicted the exact timing of, but that the household was apparently prepared for anyway, kept ready, just in case that exact moment ever came. It's a fitting note to end this list on. Meat here isn't just fuel or survival. It's specifically chosen to mark restoration, a physically nourishing meal built around the exact moment someone needed both real strength and a genuine reason to celebrate at the very same time, body and spirit addressed together rather than separately, one nourishing the other in a way that's easy to overlook if you only focus on the emotional side of the story. If sarcopenia and muscle loss are quietly stealing independence from so many people as they age, exactly where this video started at the very beginning, this final story offers a fitting closing image. Protein, chosen deliberately and served generously, specifically at the moments that matter most for both body and spirit alike, never treated as an afterthought squeezed in wherever convenient. There's something worth sitting with in the fact that the father doesn't wait to see how his son's life turns out. Before celebrating, the meal comes first, strength and joy offered immediately rather than earned gradually over time through good behavior or proven change. Whatever this story means on a deeper spiritual level, the physical detail sitting right at its center is unmistakable. Real nourishment, chosen deliberately, offered the moment it was needed most, without conditions attached to it. 8 meat dishes and one consistent thread running underneath every single one. Real, complete protein showing up again and again at exactly the moments people most needed genuine strength to keep going, whether that meant fleeing a country, surviving a drought, or simply welcoming someone home. After years of estrangement, heme iron and complete protein remain 2 of the simplest, most evidence-backed tools against age-related muscle loss. No expensive supplement required, just consistent, Adequate meat intake spread thoughtfully across your meals throughout the day rather than saved entirely for one large dinner at the end of it. Have you noticed your own appetite or energy shifting as you've gotten older? Many people quietly assume that's simply an unavoidable part of aging, something to accept rather than address, when adjusting protein intake specifically can genuinely make a measurable difference for a lot of people, even later in life than you might expect. Which of these 8 are you already eating regularly, and which one might be worth adding to your own routine starting this week? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.